Let's focus on sequential games. Sequential games in oligopolistic market would offer us two models. Models of leadership. It could be output leadership, it could be price leadership. Let's start with output leadership. The output leadership model is very often referred to as Stackelberg model. This comes from the name of the guy who actually invented this model. So there is a leader here, a leader that decides upon the quantity that will be produced by him, and a follower that responds to that. Who is this leader? Typically, the leadership may belong to the biggest firm, and this is the dominant firm in the market. So they are so big, they decide and others would adjust. The leadership may also belong to the company that is most effective. That applies especially to costs, okay, so with lowest costs. This leadership of the most effective firm may quickly change into the leadership of the biggest firm, because if you are very cost effective, then you will grow more than your rivals, so you become the biggest company in the market. Or it could belong to the business that is characterized by the best market intuition. This business doesn't have to be the biggest one, but it is widely recognized as the business that sets future directions in the market, is able to predict the future directions of development that may happen, right? That is also the case of output leadership. So those are three possibilities here, right? You've got them in the slide. Let's consider the Stackelberg model. Look at the slide here. Let's consider the Stackelberg model. We base on the assumption that both businesses want to maximize their profit. So the leader, since they take the decisions first, would be denoted by number 1, and the follower gets number 2. And we will consider the follower first, because the follower has got this comfort of knowing already the decision of the leader. So let's look at profit maximization for the second producer, for the follower. They try to maximize their profit, the profit of the follower, and this profit is the difference between the total revenue of the follower minus the total cost of the follower. Look at the total cost of the follower. This is TC that depends on Q2. Total cost of the follower depends on how much the follower would produce. Q2 is the production of the follower. How about total revenue? Well, the total revenue is P times Q. So the total revenue of the follower is the price at which it is sold, the production is sold to the market, times the quantity the follower sells. You can see this quantity, Q2, that the follower sells, but the price, P, depends on the joint production of the leader and the follower. Hence, this P here depends on Q1 plus Q2. The price depends on the quantity. You remember this graph, right? So you can try to make marginal revenue of the follower make equal to marginal cost of the followers. Obviously, you use this total cost function for the follower to calculate marginal cost. You use this function of total revenue to calculate marginal revenue, but Here we have a little problem because this function of total revenue is based on two variables, Q1 and Q2. Look at the price. This is the function of Q1 and Q2. So we've got two variables, Q1 and Q2. And we can equate marginal revenue with marginal cost for the follower, and we will find the production of the follower. We will find Q2, but we will not find a given precise number. We will find a function of Q1, which means that we will know precisely how much Q2 is if we know how much is Q1. So we've got what is called a reaction function. We know what would be the reaction of the second producer, of the follower, on the production of the first, of the leader. And that seems pretty reasonable. To find this reaction function would simply tell us that the follower takes into account the decision of the leader. It's like playing chess. My move, if I play black pieces, would depend on the move of the white pieces, right? So I would take that into account. So this is precisely how we know how Q2 depends on Q1, how the production of the follower depends on the decision of the leader. So let's focus on the leader. For the leader, we have the same situation in the sense that the leader also tries to maximize their profit. And they do it by making marginal revenue equal to marginal cost. The profit of the leader is total revenue of the leader minus total cost of the leader. And total cost of the leader is TC of Q1. So that's easy. But the total revenue of the leader is P times Q1. Q1 is again easy, but P depends on Q1 and Q2. So again, we've got two variables in one equation, which wouldn't allow us normally to solve this equation. But we already know the reaction function for the follower. We can take this reaction function, we can take this Q2 and put it instead of Q2 in the profit maximization for the leader. You can see that I replace Q2 with the reaction function. And this reaction function depends on Q1. So this equation here is actually one equation with one variable, so we can solve it, right? We can make marginal revenue of the leader equal to marginal cost of the leader, and we can calculate what is Q1. If you already know what is Q1, you put this Q1 into the reaction function of the follower, so you know how much the follower would produce, or what would be his reaction to Q1. You know Q1, you know Q2. If you add them, you know what is Q, the total production, and you learn what would be the price. So you know everything. You know prices, you know quantities, you know costs. You can calculate profits. The problem is solved. Price leadership. Price leadership is also a bit complicated. So watch me drawing the graph, because then you are likely to understand how price leadership works. So we've got our axis like Q and P. We've got demand, and we've got the supply of the follower. Again, first we focus for a while on the follower, because the follower has this easier part. The follower already knows the decision of the leader. So this is the supply of the follower, so we know how much the follower would supply to the market. Now we are going to switch our perspective to the leader, and let's think this way. If there is follower in the market already, then how much of free space is there left for the leader? We will find two kind of characteristic points. Have a look. The first of them is this one here on the vertical axis of P. This point corresponds with the point of intersection between demand and the follower's supply. If the price is of this value that you can see here, then the follower would produce as much as the market needs. So the whole demand at this price would be satisfied by the follower. How much space is left for the leader? That's 0. So if the price in the market is here, then there is no space for the leader. Let's find another point. This is the point of intersection between D, the demand, and the axis of Q, the horizontal axis. This point of intersection would be for price equals 0. Do not worry, we are not going to sell anything at 0 zloty. It's just a theoretical consideration. What would the situation would like? How much space there would be for the leader if the leader sets the price at 0? Well, if the leader sets the price at 0, then quantity demanded is very big. You can see it here as the intersection between D and Q axis. And the supply of the follower is 0, it's non-existent. You can see that this follower supply starts from the origin of the coordinate system. So for 0 price, the supply of the follower would be 0. So how much place, how much free room there is for the leader? Well, at the price equals 0, the leader could take the whole market. Okay, so we found 2 points. Okay, this price over that leaves no space for the leader, and the price equals 0 that leaves the whole market for the leader. So we know how to find the room for the leader. We just connect those 2 points, and this is how much space is left for our leader. We call it residual demand. This residual demand means simply that this is demand that is left for the leader after the follower sells whatever they produce and sell at a given price level. So we've got D, which is demand of the whole market. Part of this demand is satisfied by SF, the follower's supply, and then what is left for the leader is DR, residual demand. So this is demand for the production of the leader only. And this is a very important moment, because if DR, this residual demand, is for the leader only, then you could say for this residual demand, our leader can act as a kind of monopolist, because this demand is for him only. So he would be the only company satisfying this residual demand. If our leader would be like a monopolist, then we know how our leader would maximize their profit by setting marginal revenue here, finding marginal cost. The point of intersection between marginal revenue and marginal cost would give us the production of the leader. So we've got Q1 here. Then we would look at the residual demand and we would find the price. So the problem is solved for the leader. If we know the residual demand, then we can find marginal revenue, marginal cost, and the intersection of those two curves would point at the production of the leader Q1, and taking this Q1 into residual demand would give you the price. So the problem of the leader is solved. But the problem of the leader is not the problem of the whole duopoly. So let's move back to the whole market. Moving back to the whole market means we now consider the D line, the demand for all the goods, not only the goods provided, supplied by the leader. This is price leadership. So the price is set for the whole market at the level of P, at this price P. And the whole market, you can sell Q. So this is the total production, this is the total sales. At the price of P, the market would buy Q. Part of this Q, namely Q1, will be produced and supplied by the leader. The rest, the distance between Q1 and Q, will be occupied by the follower. Both would be selling at the price P, and Q1 goes to the leader and the rest goes to the follower. Price leadership explained. So we know both models of leadership by now. Those models are not universal in the sense that you need to look at the economic reality to be able to predict which of those two models can be used. I can give you two simple examples. If, for instance, you have a business, you produce something, and you move to a new market, completely new market. So you move to another country and you build a factory there. And this factory has a given capacity, right? It can produce that much per month. This is precisely what we call output leadership. Because you go to this market, you build the factory, and you communicate to other players, okay, here I am, this is my decision about the quantity I want to produce for this market. And the followers, when enter the market after you, would say, all right, so we know this is how much this guy wants to produce, and what would be our decision about production? What would be our reaction, like in the Stackelberg model? What is the reaction of the follower to the decision of the leader? That's how it works. When it comes to price leadership, then this price leadership can be achieved by publishing, for instance, a catalog. So if you look at the catalogs provided to people by Castorama, this is a typical price leadership strategy. So if in the vicinity of the place where I live, there is a similar shop with similar articles that you can buy in Castorama and DIY stuff, then the owner of this local shop has to take into account the prices used by Castorama. Doesn't of course mean that he should have the same prices. No, absolutely not. First of all, he wouldn't be able to have such low prices because he's got no bargaining power comparable with Castorama. But for me, the potential customer, I would decide whether to go to Castorama or to my local shop, depending on the question, what is the price or what is the difference in the price? I do accept the fact that my local shop may operate with higher prices, but if they are much too higher, then I will jump into my car and I will drive a few kilometers to Castorama, right? So this is how you need to take the decisions of the price leader into account, right? You cannot ignore them. You have to adjust somehow, right? You don't have to follow in the sense that you make the same decisions, but you have to take them into account. This is how leadership in oligopolistic market works.